Well, hello, everyone. I want to spend just a few minutes with you visiting about the Startup Business Funding Package. The Startup Business Funding Package is a turnkey resource to help entrepreneurs form new businesses that are positioned for fast funding. If you and I were to be frank with each other, most small business owners do it wrong. Their approach is wrong. And we're going to talk about how to do it right and how we can assist them in doing it correctly. So who is it that should participate in the Startup Business Funding Package? Well, entrepreneurs who are looking to form a new business that is well positioned for fast funding would benefit from the package. Now, sometimes we're working with individuals that have not yet formed their new business, or some that already have a business, but that business is not set up correctly. It's not optimized for funding, which I'll describe here over the next few minutes. We've had the pleasure of working with some really bright, talented, and experienced individuals, including some folks that had worked with SBA and SCORE, to put together this turnkey package to identify specifically what's needed to be able to be positioned for fast funding. Because a lot of small business owners want and need funding, but in many cases, how their business is structured and positioned does not look credible enough, so they can't get the funding. That's exactly the solution that we provide to that problem is the Startup Business Funding Package. Now, the neat thing is we'll actually pay you to participate. There is certainly an enrollment fee, and that can be financed, of course, but we're going to be transferring $10,000, I'll talk more about this in a moment, immediately to your business. Why do we do that? Because we know that if your business does not appear to be liquid and does not have collateral, you are not ready for funding. So yes, there is an enrollment fee. Yes, that can be financed. However, that's immaterial because the benefit, the financial immediate benefit that you're getting far exceeds that. So, as we say, we'll pay you to participate. And we have a great referral program. And so if you know of any individuals, entrepreneurs, small business owners that could benefit from the Startup Business Funding Package, the grant that we applied for and received will pay you a scholarship of $1,000 cash for each person that you refer that enrolls. Can't beat that. Now let's drill into the specifics of what's exactly included. Let me make it a bit smaller because the devil's in the details, right? It's so important to understand this value proposition. So the Startup Business Funding Package, and this is brand new, it was set to roll out live May 1st. We're recording this on April 27th. It's now available, but this is brand new. This has not been offered before. We just received the grant approval last night. The Startup Business Funding Package provides an affordable and effective solution for early stage businesses to meet important credibility factors to access capital. Let's break this down for more understanding. So, of course, this is the name of the program. It's okay for us to work with individuals that already have businesses, but in this case, we would be setting up a new entity that's optimized for funding. And that's what we talk about, these credibility factors. We might ask yourself, well, is my business currently set up to be credible? Well, the quick checklist is this. We must have, to be credible, a legitimate commercial business address. If what our business is formed is under a residential address, that is an X, not a check mark. If it's a post office box, that is not credible. If it's some sort of shared virtual address, that is not what we need. We need a unique, legitimate commercial business address. So it starts with that. And that's provided, of course, which we'll talk about in a moment and what's included. The second thing that a credible business needs to qualify for funding is a business credit profile. Well, what does that mean? Well, we're talking about like Dun & Bradstreet, for example. On paper, does your business show that it has had access to credit and managed that credit properly? If not, the business really isn't that well positioned for a capital raise. Well, we're going to provide that as well. That is part of the value proposition. And then we also need to have credible financials. What does that mean? Do we have a balance sheet for our business? Do we have an income statement for our business? Do those financials demonstrate that the business is liquid, that it's solvent? And secondly, does it demonstrate that the business has collateral? So this is what we're providing through the Startup Business Funding Package, is a turnkey packaged approach that includes these elements. So again, you're going to run into some individuals that already have a business, but it's not set up credibly, or others that haven't yet started a business, and we can help either of those two groups with this solution. So let's talk about the process. Once an individual enrolls, the first thing we're going to do, typically same day or very, very quickly, is get them their unique address. Before we go filing with the Secretary of State, before we go get our EIN, before we go get our bank account, before we go to Dun & Bradstreet to set up our profile, it starts with the address. We need to have a true, unique commercial address. So we provide that. Then we're going to form the business with the Secretary of State using that correct address. Great news is the grant pays the filing fees. So instead of you having to pay LegalZoom or pay an attorney, or paying for the filing fees, the grant pays for that. So there's no cost to the participant for the filing fees. Because we did receive the grant, we'll then immediately transfer, within 24 hours typically, $10,000. Well, why does that matter? Well, of course, $10,000 is good, but what we need to do is create a strong balance sheet. Remember, we talked about this earlier. We need to have credible financials. It is a fallacy to think that a small business can go qualify for a large amount of funding if their financials make them look weak, insolvent, or unprepared. Those are significant barriers that we've addressed through the Startup Business Funding Package. So by adding $10,000 immediately, because a lot of times people say, well, I have a brand new business. Of course, my balance sheet is blank. Well, that's a horrible approach. We need to have a strong balance sheet immediately before we go to funding. And so we're going to transfer the $10,000 of assets. So we have collateral and we have liquidity immediately. Then what we're going to do is help liquidate the $10,000 of receivables. We have a factoring company. We've talked about this in other trainings. We have a factoring company that will factor receivables for 97 cents on the dollar. So will they send $10,000? No, but they'll send 9,700. So we have a factoring option, and there are other strategies as well. We need to work with each participant to figure out what the best way to do for their circumstance to liquidate the receivables. And then, as I mentioned before, we're going to help build the business credit profile. We mentioned that up here, and that's where we're discussing it here. Adding trade lines under the EIN with no personal guarantees, so the business looks credible and does not look like a risk to the lender, because they've had credit extended to the business before and they've managed it properly. All right, well, let's close out by going through the bulleted list of specifically what's included, so there's no question. So for free, yes, we're going to provide a unique business address, not residential, not a post office box, and definitely not shared. When I say shared, that's where if you went to like a Regis or a WeWork or some of these organizations, they'll give you a suite number, but it's a suite number that's used by a bunch of other businesses. That is not a unique address. That's a shared virtual office address. We don't want that. We want a unique address. So your address is different than everyone else's, and it's legitimate, of course. So that's free. We're going to, and that comes first. We never want to go form an entity before we have a unique commercial address. Next thing that's included, also free, is filing with the Secretary of State. That is covered by the grant. Participant doesn't have to pay for that. Then we help them get their EIN. Getting the EIN, of course, is free through the IRS. Next thing that we're going to do for free because of the grant is we're going to provide free assistance in building their business credit. We can build up to $250,000 of business credit under the EIN. Then we're going to also transfer those assets, which we've been talking about, to the new business. That's hugely important. We don't want to have just a new business that looks insolvent. That's horrible, right? What type of borrowing capacity do you think that an insolvent business has? Not much. Therefore, we're going to transfer those assets, create liquidity and collateral for funding. And then, of course, as we talked about, help liquidate those receivables. And then as a really nice, I don't want to say bonus, but another benefit, which is also free, is geographic access to the Chapman Fund. There are different types of taxing authorities across the United States. Like Tulsa, Oklahoma has been known that if you want to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma, they will pay you, or at least they were paying, $10,000 for people like you and I to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a tax-based economic incentive to bring in professionals to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, that's not what we're talking about here, but the Chapman Fund is also from a taxing authority, so you don't have to jump through bank hoops, and they provide how much? Up to $250,000 to start or grow a business. That $250,000 can be used for fixed assets, new construction, renovations, leased property, equipment, inventory, and working capital. Can be used in conjunction with SBA and other loans to get much more, because the Chapman Fund does cap at $250,000. And as I mentioned, this is a tax-supported funding program, so we don't have to go jump through the bank hoops. So with that being said, let's summarize. We have the Startup Business Funding Package. It's a turnkey approach to help entrepreneurs have a business that's positioned for fast funding. Lots of benefits that are packaged in. Really, there's no cost because we're actually paying the participant to participate because of the grant, the free elements, and of course, the $10,000 of assets that will be transferred immediately. With that being said, we have a page on our website on guaranteedfunding.org called the Startup Business Funding Package. I know that's a lot to type, but if you just simply go to guaranteedfunding.org, you'll see Startup Business Funding Package as one of the pages. From there, you can submit an inquiry. We'll reach out to you, see if you qualify. And again, there is an enrollment fee. There is an enrollment fee. The grant covers a lot, but not everything, right? So a bunch of things are free, but there is an enrollment fee. But if you need help with financing that, we can assist you with that. But regardless of the enrollment fee, the value is clear because you're getting so much more. All right, with that being said, thank you for your time. Let us know if you have any questions, and please visit guaranteedfunding.org, Startup Business Funding Package, to learn more and to participate. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.